Alright, I'm on my way to a meeting, so this video has to be from the car. Welcome to VIVA MMA, a YouTube channel for proud lovers of all things MMA.
Let's wrestle! 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 Let's wrestle!
We're talking about Khabib Nurmagomedov, and we're talking about DC Cormier. So, apparently, 50 Cent or 50 Cent, depending on your pronunciation, offered Khabib $2 million to leave the UFC and fight in Bellator. Now, while I am always wrong with the fighter I picked to win a fight, my business savvy is a little bit better than my picking fighter savvy. In one of my previous videos, I told Khabib if he has a problem with the UFC, what he should do instead of cutting off his nose to spite his face is take his money and his crowd to Bellator and fight for Bellator. If he thinks he's getting mistreated by the UFC, take your talent and take your draw to Bellator and get treated better or more fairly in a new platform, enterprise that is Bellator, because they've been getting big names and they've been taking people who are getting fed up with the UFC, and it seems like the trend that should be continued if someone really wants to take a stand against what they feel to be improper treatment in the UFC. So 50 Cent offers him $2 million, and Khabib's manager says, no, we'll take 15 million or something along those lines. As I've said in previous videos, I'm a lawyer by trade who's turned into a YouTuber, and I still do some law. And one of the things that you have to know in law is that when you're negotiating, the entire team has to be on the same page. If your negotiation tactics are to make any sense, having one guy who's the face and the leader of the team saying, I'm going to leave and tear up my contract for zero remuneration, sends one message that geez Louise, where were we? Having the face of the team, the star, the talent, the draw, say he's going to tear up his UFC contract for no remuneration, sends one message that is incongruent with his manager saying he's only going to do it for $15 million. It's a thing that I predicted he should have done even before 50 Cent offered $2 million to do it. But the moral of the story is just that your team has to be speaking in unison. Having one guy say he's going to do something for free and then his manager saying he'll only do it for 15 million when offered 2 million sends a message that is incoherent and not good negotiating tactics. Getting to DC Cormier, who's got his next title fight against Derek Lewis. It's going to be a fantastic fight, but I am going to put my money on DC Cormier. Although I'm not putting any money on it because I don't bet on fighting, and whenever I pick a fighter they lose, but this time I think I'm going to be right. I love Derek Lewis. He's got tremendous knockout power, he's got heart, he's got a sense of humor which is almost better than heart, but I don't think he's going to have the stamina and the cardio and the technique to grapple, to wrestle, and to fight with DC. Now, I've been wrong all the time before, and I might be wrong again, but that's my pick. All that to say is, while DC now is getting ready for this fight, Jon Jones's camp is apparently spreading the seeds that he's coming back and he should be fighting DC Cormier. And I heard a brief radio interview where DC, he sounded quite distraught, and one of the comments in the comment section, which I thoroughly enjoyed, was Jon Jones has taken up residence inside DC Cormier's head. To me, it's patently obvious that this is the case. DC has a thing with Jon Jones. He can't beat him. I love DC. I respect everything he is as a fighter, but my humble, uneducated, always wrong opinion is that he simply cannot beat Jon Jones. He knows he cannot beat Jon Jones. He doesn't want to fight Jon Jones again. I don't care what anybody says. DC doesn't want to fight Jon Jones again, and the prospect of Jon Jones now coming to the forefront to challenge DC for what many believe is Jon Jones's rightful belt scares the living bejesus out of DC. He does not want to end his career on a loss to Jon Jones, and apparently he's thinking of retiring after 2 fights and said something in the media to the effect that Jon Jones is not going to dictate when DC gets to retire. DC does not want to fight Jon Jones, and Jon Jones is going to destroy DC if they ever do fight, and DC knows it. It's not because DC is a bad fighter, it's because Jon Jones is the best fighter that has ever been in the UFC, and but for his personal failings, he would have been the most hands down, unarguably best pound for pound fighter in the history of the UFC, and as far as I'm concerned, the best fighter in the history of the UFC. Imagine that Jon Jones's only losses in the UFC are by DQs to Cormier and to Mark Hamill. I mean, such dominant performance. I agree. Camera, don't fall. I agree. The elbow strikes to Hamill were, I suspect, illegal, but not sure how many people were following the UFC when Jon Jones fought Mark Hamill, but Mark Hamill or Steve Hamill? Which one's the one from Star Wars and which one's the fighter in the UFC? Whatever. Hamill, you know what I'm talking about. And they raised Hamill's hand in victory and the dude couldn't even stand up. I have difficulty accepting that DC Cormier gets the W over Jon Jones in their last fight, and I had trouble accepting that Hamill got the W in that fight against Jon Jones. That said, the prospect of Jones coming back for a title fight against DC, oh my gosh. it's gonna fall again. All that to say, John Jones, DC Cormier, I'll sit there with popcorn. Booyah, peace out, protect yourselves at all times.
Let's wrestle.